These are my Vanda tricolor seedlings. They're the same seedlings that I recently potted into single pots. And I made a video about it. And that was a mistake. Not the video, but potting them into single plastic pots. That was a big mistake. I used aircon pots like this. And the problem with these pots is that it lets the water to collect in the corners. I don't know if it's by design, and I know that my Paphiopedilums like these pots. They grow perfect roots in those pots, even with waters at the bottom. But for Vandas, it was a disaster. The plants look fine from the top, and I was just curious what the root looked like. So I pulled one to see, and I discovered firstly that even though the top of the coconut husk chip medium was totally dry, the bottom was absolutely wet, and the roots that were long enough to get into that, they were browning and starting to rot. So I pulled out all the plants from those pots, and all the pots had this wet bottom part. I think the combination of it being plastic and having water collecting in the corners and being in the humid tank with 80% humidity, that allowed to the medium to not dry as it should. So obviously I repotted the plants right away. I used this net pots, which would allow a lot of air in the root area. And I used the moss because I'm very comfortable with moss. I like it for orchids. It is easy to tell when it's dry by just lifting the pot and feeling the weight. Or if it's a clay pot, you can just stick your finger in and feel it through. So that's the update. And they're now in community pots. Because having 18 little pots to water was like a really big job. And I know that seedlings do better in the crowd. While having moss ready for Vanda tricolor, I decided to do the same for Vanda insignis seedlings too. They're a little bit smaller than tricolor. But they're doing great. They grow some new roots. And now they are potted into same community pots with sphagnum. And here's my third Vanda deflasking project, Vanda falcata, or Neophoenicia falcata, if you want to call it that way. It was classified like Vanda now. It's supposed to have yellow flowers if they survive until blooming, because I did lose quite a few seedlings from this flask due to stem rot, actually. I think I got water in between leaves and the top part kind of rotted away on many of them. They're very fragile comparing to the tricolor and insignis. These guys are really fragile. So those are my updates on Vanda seedlings.